Hey guys, how's it going? Hey, it's me again. Told you I'd post a few things, but never got around to it. Um, Been working in the shop. We've had some crappy weather, some wind come through, and late last night we had some drizzly rain and stuff like that. I mean, we're not near as bad as further north or east, but I had my solar array set up, not hooked up, just set up to see if the kind of the easel style was going to work, and it will. Problem was is that I didn't get it pegged down. I kind of had to put everything on hold and go in and get this spinal deal done, which I got to admit is it's working. It's actually blocking the pain in my leg. It's helping with the pain in my lower spine. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm starting to lean towards maybe the permanent will be a good thing to have. But I have some questions about it. I mean, I asked about these broadcasts on a certain frequency and can it be hacked, and because it is wireless. They talked about encryption, stuff like that. I want to know if the permanent one is trackable. I want to know if it has GPS. I'm not into that. I like my privacy. I don't need anything tracking me or letting people know where I'm at. It's not my thing. Other than that, and the solar panels they went over last night, but they landed on good cushy leaves and grass. They're not broken. I decided not to set them back up. Let the wind pass. I'll go out. I have anchors for the front. I still have to manufacture the anchors for the back. One of the things that is kind of a paradox with the this neural stimulator that I have is that you're wearing it on the outside is where the battery pack everything is, and the wires run into your spinal column. So I am taped and just everything sealed shut on my back. I have to take what I call horse baths, whatever. And shout out to my wife yesterday. She scrubbed my back down good with baby wipes, got me cleaned up, lotioned my back because I've been itching like crazy around it, where this derm seal is on, and my body doesn't like it, and it is impermeable. So lay down at night, you cover up with a blanket, you're gonna sweat. So you wake up in the morning, you're all sweaty and itchy. It's horrible. Sorry, I'm moving her around. I did get my camera out, got everything else set up for my actual cam, but I'm still hinky, but I'm not sure how to set it all up. I'll get to it. Um, the problem with the paradox I was talking about was that this is a test bed to see if the permanent that goes under the skin will work for you. Okay, here's the deal. They tell me be active, but don't lift over 5 pounds. Don't reach over your head. Don't do this. Don't do that. So I get that. They don't want the wires pulling loose, coming out, and that's a safety thing. That being said, I was already forcing myself to be more active than that with only my medication. And yes, it was a real bugger at the end of the day. I mean, I couldn't sit down without hollering out in pain or standing up without hollering out in pain. If I was upright and moving, I wasn't bad. But it was the transition that was killing me. So to me, it's like, how do you say this is not necessarily the best test bed you could have? It doesn't allow a person to be as active as they'd like to be while they're testing it. But that being said, it has completely alleviated the pain in my leg, and it has died down the pain in my spine and right hip to the point where I think I'm starting to lean towards maybe the permanent's a good thing. Just have some questions about it. That's all. So I've kind of been held up on getting stuff done. I have worked in the shop a little bit. I've got some stuff packed up, sent out to storage. Some of my Army I Love Me crap that I've displayed that nobody gets to see it anyway but me and the family, and who cares, right? So that's packed up, and it's packed well for long-term storage. I've got moisture absorbers and oxygen absorbers, and then all my stuff is sealed shut. So maybe the kids someday, I don't know, whatever. Maybe a museum, who knows? But a lot of that's getting out of the way so I can turn the shop back into a shop and not a man cave. So I've also worked on patching the walls and plugging holes in the shop. I'm looking over because I made just a kind of a brief outline, but the foundation in the shop is kind of a crappy foundation, and it's starting to sag a little bit. and so it's getting air leaks here and there. Now, a few years back, I had the whole shop, all the siding ripped off, all new, make sure everything's insulated well, house wrap, sealed, and new siding. And I went with a kind of a wainscoting siding, but outdoor, and I made sure that it was sealed in on the back side. It was primed and painted and then sealed along with the edges before it went up. I mean, they did a great job, as far as some things are. Now, the guy I had do it used to work construction, this and that. He was in the guard with me. They left a lot of things kind of, sort of half-assed, but I've been catching them over the years and fixing it up. But for what he charged me, I'm not complaining. I mean, he did a good job. But the foundation was a block foundation. The floor in here was poured separate and not tied to the block foundation. So we've got some foundation sag and the floor's not. So I've got some pneumonia holes I've been sealing up. I got one wall in the corner of the northwest corner, I'm sorry. I got that epoxied back together, and I'm getting ready to put great stuff foam down inside that block tonight for insulation. And then when the spring hits, I will go outside, and I am going to make my own giant brackets that will anchor the two walls together, and then I can actually lift up on the building a little bit and repair the foundation underneath. It's sort of when I'm a jack of all trades, again, master of none, but I know what needs to be done, so I'll get to it. But it needs to be warmer weather for me to do that. So we are working on getting the shop back to a shop. My desk that I kept out here for my office, my filing cabinet when I was in the military, and I kept all my files in there. That's all gone. Anything with a SSN or private information has all been burnt and destroyed. Filing cabinet's empty. Desk was emptied out. Cleaned that went out to storage. So now I have a spot for my bench-mounted sander. It's a bench-mounted belt sander with the rotary on it too, and I love those things, man. You can shape wood, clean wood. You can do put the abrasive on there, the 32 or 36 grit. I mean, and the discs and belts, and you can round corners on metal, everything else, and I love it. So I'm getting ready to plate that wall where the desk was with some corrugated steel, so that any sparks that fly hit that and go straight to the concrete. I'll get it all kind of bunkered in. Still working on a bench idea. I have a bench, but it's kind of like, that's where I like to keep the jugs of water stored for out here, because the man cave does not have running water. It has its own electric bill. It does have a meter, but hey, I've not paying to plumb that in because there used to be a house here, so that's what the meter's for. But it's going to be expensive, and if we're going to move, I'm not going to go through that effort. But I am putting in I am going to go with Missouri Wind and Solar's. They've got a great DC, 12-volt DC actual water heater. Be advised that there's a lot of them out there that say DC, but when you get them, they've been melted off on the edge where you can't read what it says. And that means they were an AC, and the wire's heavy enough so you can kind of use them for DC. Don't do that. Just spend the extra money. Get yourself a DC if you want to use solar power to heat water. My plan is to, I found a website that has some 58-gallon food-grade barrels, very heavy-walled plastic, and I'm going to get a DC water heater, install that, and I'll probably run 2 deep cycle batteries with a charge controller, and then a 200-watt solar panel, because that's the max on the hot water heater, and let that charge off those batteries, so it'll heat water during the day. Then I can turn it down, and it'll keep, in the winter, it'll keep water from freezing at night. So I can actually put that underneath my carport or wherever I want to set it, and it won't freeze. And if I set it up high, I can use the gravity feed to drain it, use the water I need to. And I've got a filtration idea for running off a couple gutters to keep it full, to where, because this water is not potable. I don't plan on drinking this water. This water is for thawing out stuff. You add a little bleach to it, and you can scrub out like smoking pots or marinade pots, whatever. Because you guys, anybody that knows me knows I like to marinate and smoke different types of meat. And let's not get crazy with that either. It's not the kind of meat I'm talking about. So, but that's one of my plans to do with that. I've been practicing. I got a friend of mine, Dan. Kudos to you. he has decided to help me out and teach me harmonica. So each day I've been practicing. I would say 10 to 20 minutes if I sit down and think about it. And I had a couple different harmonicas. I had one that's fairly cheap, but I was working with it. But he has decided to loan me one of his good Johnson harmonicas, and it's a D, where the one that he originally let me use was a B, a little high. This one's working better for me, and then the one I had that my dad gave me years ago. Yeah, you probably see my Corona sitting over there. If I can get this thing out of the box. And of course, it's called the Mississippi Harmonica Company. Yeah, made in China. Ooh, Mississippi, my butt. But that's the one I was using. And for learning, this one's just a little too much. So he lent me his, and I'll be working with his. And like this one in particular, they're all marked in the corner to tell you what chord they are up in the corner. This one, being so high dollar, has no marking on it. So you get to practice what you practice. So he said it's difficult for me to practice with that. And I haven't read music, I think, since, gosh, high school and some in church. You know, reading the music out of a hymnal or something like that. So I'm having difficulty with that. Excuse me. But what he said was it's not a big deal. I'm going to play the harmonica eventually without knowing any music or not worrying about the music. So I'm pretty grateful for that. So thank you, Dan. He's been a good friend of mine. He's stuck by me through thick and thin. What else have I done? Really not a whole lot. I got if I can show you, I've got this fridge right there that was against the wall. I don't know how good that turned out, but it's an old fridge, and I had screwed up when I put it in. One of the covers over the motor in the back where the fan provides airflow had kind of deteriorated, and I took it off, didn't replace it. Well, this thing was running constantly, and I should have known better. That was one of the reasons why my electric bill was so high in the shop, was because this thing is just running constantly. So everything's cleaned out. It's in the other side with a much newer fridge. Used to be our fridge in the house. It had little broken arms in the doors and stuff like that. But I remanufactured some stuff and got it fixed up. And that's got some food, and a lot of my bottled wine is in there, stuff like that. This fridge works great, so I'm gonna get it all blown out, clean out, get it good and clean, and put a cover back on over the motor. And I have some it's actually inch and a half semi-flexible foam that doesn't break. So that's going to get the whole thing's getting scrubbed and then light sanded down and cleaned. And I'm gluing this to the outside to try to make an kind of an ultra refrigerator, ultra insulated. I mean, not refrigerated, and see how that works out for me. And it is going to go on the other side of the shop, which is turning into more of a parts and supplies and stuff like that instead of a work area. And I'm going to put that over there and use that for wine shock. When I make my wine and I want the yeast to die because I'm done making, I don't want it to ferment anymore. What I like to do is actually take that vat of wine and shove it straight into like 34, 35 degrees. It shocks the yeast and it kills the yeast right off. Leave it in there a few days and then start my filtering process. So that's my plan for this refrigerator. It'll be for my fermenting and brewing. Let's see. Did get some supplies sealed up for the zombie apocalypse. I don't know if you can see that over there. If I can get it, there's a crate there that you see. It's got a tube of fire-resistant caulk on it. That's for going around my stovepipe. But that is a crate that it's an old ammo crate I picked up in, gosh, it would have been 1990. Yeah, it would have been 1990. I was active duty. Just an old ammo crate they were going to get rid of, and I kind of fixed it up, made it sturdy, and I just kept it in my barracks, and I used it for just odds and ends, and then ended up getting deployed to Desert Storm, and I put a waterproof bag inside it, and I kept all my pokey bait and all my personal stuff, and actually strapped it to the side of my fist V. I ran straps through some stuff on there, and I had it strapped up. It's so sturdy that I could actually climb onto the driver's hatch, step down on that, and then step on the track to get to the ground. It was a lot easier than climbing out the front. But I've had this thing for years. It went to Afghanistan with me as well. Served me well, and then it got a little beat up. and then it went to Iraq with me, and it got a little more beat up. So I brought it back, and it was never intended to be watertight or anything like that. That's not what the crate was for. But I ended up doing a pretty good job water sealing it, and I packed it full of supplies, and those are vacuum sealed and Mylar and everything else. And then the crate, I just finally, after a long time, got it sealed shut. It is 100% pure silicone. God bless GE. Their brand is great. It dries fast. It's food grade. You can buy their food grade stuff. Not that it matters, but it works great. And that silicone not only seals out water and dust and everything else, but it's a pretty good adhesive. So that's sealed shut. Everything's drying, and that's ready to go in the basement, I think, probably in a day or two. I've got it sitting over by the wood stove so it can cure. So I got that done. And I had some friends stop by this afternoon. Good family friends. There's been a lot of heartache in their family here recently, and some of the same heartache that other people have went through, including my family. And it was painful. We talked, and we're trying to help. We're trying to be good friends and family to them. You're supposed to do that, as far as I'm concerned. If you know somebody's hurting or in need of help, whether you feel they deserve the help or not, you need to help. So, and they do deserve the help. And we talked, and we tried to help out and stuff, but it turned out okay. It was good to have them over, and it was good to try to help them and listen. And a lot of times, all a friend really needs is friends and family. All they really need is guys have a tendency to try to fix shit, and maybe not try to fix shit. Let them vent and try to empathize with them. Or if you've been there, sympathize, because you can only empathize if you haven't been there. You can sympathize if you have. So try to just help them and love them and listen to them. And that's a message I have for everybody. Don't always try to fix shit for people. You know what? If you're there for them and let them work it out and think long enough, they'll fix it on their own. I call it the giant popping sound. It's the sound of a head coming out of an ass. It makes a giant sucking popping sound. And then they always say, free your mind and your ass will follow. So I pray for people like that, and I'm always here for them. I hope, because I've been through a ton. My wife Jody was out here. She spent some time with them, trying to give advice and stuff like that. And we had advice, but a lot of times it's just that they just need to work it out on their own, but have somebody there to lean on if they need it. And that's I'm glad we could be there for them. Let's see. I'm not a big politic guy. I'll talk bipartisan a lot. One thing that's bothered me here recently is I'm not sure if I got the whole story, but I did watch a few different outlets for news a few days ago or a little bit ago. A single bill that went to Congress and got voted to fund and pay Coast Guard members' pay, and a group of partisan people decided it was more important to hate the President of the United States than to vote yes just for that part, and that's all that was in there, was just fund the Coast Guard for their pay. And that bothered me a lot. They're a member of the armed forces. I don't give a shit about this insidious change we've had in the military, where here a few years ago, under a different administration, the ID cards all got switched from Armed Forces of the United States to the Uniformed Services of the United States. Okay, look, I understand we provide a lot of different services, but when you carry an M4 or an AR of any type, or you're carrying an M16, A4, A2, whatever, when you're doing your job, you're the Armed Forces of the United States. You're not the Uniformed Services. And I don't care. It's an insidious way to try to make it politically correct to deal with other countries. If they take your ID card or you get captured, it says uniformed services. What is that going to make it softer? Are they not going to torture you or have better respect for you because your ID card says uniformed services? It's a bunch of poop. That's what it is. It's stupidity at its highest level. Now, let's get back to the bipartisan politics that I'd like to see. Regardless of who the president is, he is the president. Whether you like his policies or you don't like his policies, you have to work with him, and you have to work with his cabinet to get shit done. Now, we expect as taxpayers, when we elect somebody and we're a constituent, that they go up there and they make shit happen. Now, if you become a person that is part of this country that says, I love my country, but rephrase that, because you love your country, if you'd like to see changes in your country, that means you have to work with other people and compromise to make that happen. And if you're saying that you're sending people up to Congress, that you want to be 100% against somebody else, then you're not living the way the Founding Fathers intended. And I know there's probably going to be people come across this and go, well, Founding Fathers were racists and this and that. All right, look past what they were and what they were trying to be. Look to what they were trying to be, what they were hoping this country would become. Okay? Now, am I a Republican? No. Am I a Democrat? No. If you want to call me anything, I'm more of a constitutionalist and a bit of a libertarian. Our federal government was never intended to take care of every damn thing, every problem we had. That was supposed to be on the states. Few minor things, according to the Constitution, not minor, but a few things were supposed to be taken care of by the federal government, and we've lost that. And anybody that thinks that by giving all of your money to the government so they can dole it back out to you to tell you what you need or what you really got to have to be happy, you're a fool. Corruption is corruption, and that much money is going to corrupt no matter what you do. There's nothing you can do about that. You could have 10 people up there, and 2 of them, 3 of them cannot be corrupted. They are upright in the eyes of God or whoever they follow. They are righteous, and they will do the right thing. That's about it. The other 7, they're gonna do nasty shit once in a while because the money talks and bullshit walks. That's how it goes. Trust me, I know this. Now let's talk about the wall. I don't want to ramble on too much. I'm going to make it quick. You're going to have a bunch of morons to tell you the wall don't work. Walls don't work. It's got to be drones. Okay, well, you're an idiot. Let me tell you why you're an idiot. What you have to do is stop saying wall and start saying choke point. You have to use certain sections of that border that do have large barricades that cannot be breached. And they are funneling towards an area that maybe is just a lot of razor wire and things like that, tanglefoots, things like that, where it slows them down. But you need those walls to get them to the choke point so you can use the drones to call a quick reaction force. And why the government isn't talking to the National Guard and Army Reserve about their training plans for the next fiscal years to come, about their heavy construction equipment engineers that go out and they build, and taking your combat engineers that also know how to build and breach. Well, if they know how to breach, they know how to build. They know what needs to be done to create those choke points. They have budgets for their annual training. Use the budgets to pay the soldiers instead of sending them overseas or some other place. Send them down to this border that you have a problem with, whatever. Set them up and let that money be used, whatever equipment or materials they were going to buy, let that be used to start building your partial walls here and there for choke points. And let those engineers design it. Look, they designed that stuff to protect soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guards when they're land-borne overseas. Trust me, I know. Walls work. If they didn't work, I'd be dead as a soldier. I'd be dead. Walls work. Barricades work. If you have to slow them down and make them work their way through a barricade or go around a barricade, it gives you time to prepare so that you can repel any invasion or, as you want to call this, border crossing, whatever. But to be a sovereign nation, you have to have a secure border, or you're not a sovereign nation. If you don't want to be a sovereign nation of the United States of America, go somewhere else. Just go. Go live overseas, wherever you want, but that means you shouldn't be part of this game. This great experiment we call the United States of America and the American Constitution. You're not part of it. If you think everybody should be able to pour over the border and open borders, then you don't believe in sovereign nations. If you don't believe in sovereign nations, you don't believe in the Constitution of the United States or the Bill of Rights. I like my rights. I want to keep them. So, seriously, if you really feel like this is not you've got to have the open border, I really think maybe you should move. And I'm cool with that. I'm not trying to be mean, but you're not part of this great experiment that we have. Because anybody that says I love my nation, but I want to change this, and this, and make it social and this and that, I think what you ought to do is push towards a constitution where everybody has the right to live how they want to live. I don't believe in bigotry. I don't believe in discrimination or any of that stuff at all. The Constitution was supposed to be supposed to represent the fact that you had the inalienable right to pursue happiness. Okay, no matter what your race, gender, creed, didn't make any difference. Use the Constitution. Don't change it. Use it. Use what's already been given to you, and fight people that want to say, because of my moral beliefs, I don't think you should be able to live the way you live or get any rights here. Well, that's not constitutional. It's not, okay? Let me live the way I want to live, and I'll leave you alone, let you live the way you want to live. That's how it's supposed to be, okay? So follow the Constitution, guys. Don't run away from it. Embrace it. It's there for you. The ideals are there. We just have to enact those ideals, okay? And as for the border, I'm telling you, what I just laid out can work. Anybody that would say they want to fund border security of any kind, walls, barriers, whatever, in 2013, and then come back in 2019 or late 2018, early in 2019, and say they're against it, no, they're not against it. They're against one guy they don't like, okay? And I don't like him personally. I don't care about that. Some of his policies I like, a lot of them I don't. Makes no difference. He is still the President of the United States, and we're supposed to work with him. This is how a democracy works. If you don't want to be part of a democracy, you're in the wrong country. Get those people that we've already had trained to build choke points and build walls and set up barriers. Get those people in uniform that are already going to be paid an annual training wage. They're already going to get that. Their 2 weeks annual training, and start rotating them in and out of the border and let them build it. There's your money already laid out for a lot of fiscal years to come. They've got to go somewhere to train. So use that money to send them down there. Let them build it. To say that that's wrong, okay, well then why is the National Guard called the National Guard? What part of guard the nation don't you get? We spend more time overseas than we ever had working floods or fires or tornadoes or anything else. We get called up more for overseas active duty than we do here in our own country. We activate these people to go watch the border, but we're not allowed to guard the border. All we can do is watch and report. Come on, we're the National Guard. Let us do it. Let us build that border wall. Let us have these other people that are infantry or whatever that are already going to have an annual training, go practice somewhere, do this or that. So send them down to Fort Bliss, send them to Fort Hood. They get part of the training there, and the rest of it, they can go patrol that border. They're already getting paid for it. Let them train. Let them train down there. A lot of your best training comes OJT, on-the-job training. Send them down there and let them do it. That's my opinion of what's going on. I don't care about anything else but closing down the government and not paying these government employees. Hey, look, I was a government employee. A lot of them don't deserve their pay as it is, but most of them do. So to call the Coast Guard not a branch of the military service and not fund them just because you hate a guy is very wrong. And you're not thinking of those people and their families. And to claim that you are thinking of the families, but you're not willing to budge 1 millimeter on funding for anything, you're totally partisan and you're not willing to compromise and reach across the aisle and make stuff happen. Has Trump been an asshole? Absolutely. Absolutely. But haven't we all? So you have to look past that. You're representing us. Make stuff happen. Okay? And that's just an update for now. Tomorrow I'll post a video. I'll let you go out and see my solar panel that's fallen over and some other things I got done. I'll actually film some of it in here. But here's all I've got to say for the rest of the night. I want you guys to look out for each other as Americans. Take care of each other as Americans. No matter what your morals, ethics, or values are, they should be high enough of a high enough standard to realize that you need to respect the people around you and your neighbors until They try to force their beliefs, thoughts, or notions on you. That is unconstitutional and should not be accepted by anybody. And our country is sovereign and it needs border protection of some kind. Listen to your border agents. Watch any news program. I don't care which branch or who leans. I'm tired of the leaning anyway. What about real news? Just listen to them. Pick that out and listen to the interviews and see what they have to say. The basic people working that border and the people that lead those people, and see what they've got to say about that. God bless you. Love each other. Take care of each other. And we'll see you soon.